questions come up, which is why I wanted to stop you before I have you switch. So back there, we just had a great conversation. Use the cheat sheet. He was kind of stuck, and as soon as we looked at the cheat sheet, it was easy to see, oh yeah, I could totally ask that question. Also, you know what my favorite question is? Have you ever been on the phone and you're like, I have no idea what to say? Or they throw you something weird and you're like, yep, don't know what to do with that. So my favorite go-to is tell me more about
that.
Whatever they just said.
Yeah.
So tell me more about why you don't want a house that's pink. You know, whatever weird thing they say. Yeah, it's like a good save. So tell me more about fill in the blank. That's a good go-to if you get really stuck, okay? Also, make sure you're taking notes. It looked like most of you were, some people weren't, so just make sure you're doing the arrow thing. That will help you significantly. Any questions come up before I have you switch? It's a lot harder doing it once you actually do it, isn't it? It looks easy,
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah, I found it harder because I tend to just get right into a conversation with someone, and I will forget about paper, and I will just get chatty, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then,
Well, you're probably good with this. That's probably why. So this will just help you be a little bit more personal.
well, it makes it purposeful.
When I talk to
And that's not
Yeah. Well, this will help you, so keep practicing. And by the way, once you do it enough, I still use paper when I can, but if I'm out like just meeting someone on a train or something, this just comes back to
Their question was that
Like if you haven't switched yet, go ahead and switch.
you get a lot, once you get onto it, it's hard to get well, I usually talk about that.
How do you change? Remind me of that question when we're done, because I'll address that with everybody. I really like
Okay, so I'm following this, and so I'm going to read just one or two words.
So actually, I don't think
Okay, that's okay. Okay, so it's interesting that you fell into it so naturally. Into the real estate thing, even though it wasn't for you, but it's so easy. And so how long after that?
everybody was from there. We all started out stuff like that. I got
Yeah, interesting. I've been in sales also, in different types of sales for entire
the light bulb came on. I decided
Okay, let's try to bring you back up here. Let me have your attention back up here. That's what I used to do. Y'all are fun.
So see how you control someone like me that talks.
Do y'all say y'all, by the way?
That's your question.
All right, let me have your attention back up here.
Okay.
How did it go? What did you think? Give me some feedback.
It takes practice.
It takes practice. It looks really easy up here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's really not so easy. So really, truly, guys, and I mean this in full sincerity, And at the end of class, I will have you choose what are your specific action items or what's your takeaway from class today, and you all might have different ones. If if I could just speak into that, I would say if you realize just now that you need to work on asking digging questions, that's your one thing. Because this will help you with objections too, and we'll practice that in a minute. But a lot of times we make assumptions, and let's just be real. If you've worked in real estate for any length of time, even if it's like 2 weeks, you hear the same stuff over and over and over, right? Same thing over and over and over. So it's easy for us to think, I've heard this before. And then we make an assumption. So through asking questions, it will help people have an aha. I'm curious, right now, did any of you almost self-realize something as they asked you questions? It kind of helped you get clarity on something? Did that happen to anybody?
Yes.
Oh, a bunch of you are waving your heads. What would that look like? You're nodding your heads again. Guys, I'm on vacation, okay?
That's the way whales do it.
Yeah. By the way, I saw some whales underneath of a rainbow at my condo yesterday.
Oh.
I was like, this is amazing. This is total side note. Y'all will get a kick. I'm totally like derailed for a second. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I landed at the airport, and I like adventure, and I love the ocean, okay? And I'm by myself. Lori had not arrived yet. And I thought I could take this way to Lahaina. Which, by the way, I knew nothing about this road, okay? I just came from Oahu, and like, it went like this, but it was down at the coastline. So I saw this, and I thought, oh, coastline, and I want to see the big waves, and here they're on the North Shore. And a surfer in Oahu said, go to the back of the neck, and I'm assuming that's the back of the neck, right?
Yeah.
Is that what that means? So I was like, this looks like the back of the neck. I think that's where the surfer said to go, and it looks like it winds on the coastline. I'll take this road. Whoa! That was like shocking to me. And I've heard it compared, is it true it's like the road to Hana?
Worse.
It's worse.
And get this, I had to be somewhere at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I landed at about, I got in the car around 1:30.
Oh my God.
Oh, no.
I booked it. I was safe, but like if I could see no one coming, I moved. And I was like, I'll come back later. Please don't die. And I remember thinking, no one knows I'm here. Like I could die right now, and nobody would know that this is where I died. I'd become one of those missing people. So anyway.
See that.
Do what?
A cliff with no railing.
Yes, I saw. I tried, and I came from this direction, and I read about the road later, and they said if you do it, go from Lahaina, so you're hugging the mountain. I was like, yeah, I didn't do that. I was not doing that.
Let them go over it.
Yeah. So anyway, I told Lori we'll do it later, but we're gonna start in Lahaina and go that way. So anyway, side note. I don't know how we got there, but the look on your face was awesome. That just made the whole class. Okay.
Story to tell forever.
I know. I was like, this will be an adventure I'll talk about for years to come. Okay. So, but the point is, this will help you with every conversation. I have no idea how we got on that. Sorry, guys. But the point is, learning how to ask sticking questions will help you with everything. So let's practice for just a minute. And we'll get to more of the workbook in a second. We're not in the workbook right yet. The first part of the class is always, the length of it is how to ask good questions, because that's the setup for the entire rest of the class, okay? But somebody give me a common objection that you hear here.
We're not ready yet.
Not ready.
Okay. Just looking.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine that probably happens a lot here, right? I'd love to buy a house someday, I'm just looking.
Yeah.
So, I'm really glad you told me that. What makes you not ready? So somebody, just keep it going with me. Would you mind just being the first? So what makes you not ready?
Well, my son just started college,
Okay.
so finances are going elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay. My son just started college. And by the way, if you're doing this, this will help me know, can I solve it or can I not solve it? Okay, so either way, it's a win. So I'm going to ask another question. Same method, same exact method we just learned. So tell me, what about your son just starting college is impacting your timeline buying a house in Maui?
Finances.
Finances. Tell me more about your finances currently.
Well, I can't afford to buy a house on Maui and send my godson to college.
Okay. Tell me, what's your perception about what it takes to afford a house on Maui?
Well, I'm assuming I'm gonna have to pay a mortgage and
Okay.
pay a mortgage.
Perfect.
Unless you can tell me I could make money on owning a vacation rental condo.
Okay. How much money would you need to make in order for you to feel like you could pay a mortgage here?
Hey, if it paid for me to come for vacation once a year for a couple of weeks, that would be enough for me.
Okay. Is this solvable here? I don't know enough about the market, but I imagine
Yes,
so.
kinda,
Based
sorta.
on how much I'm paying for my condo, I would imagine that could happen. Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you don't feel ready because your son just started college, you're concerned about finances and paying a mortgage.
Right.
Yet at the end of the day, if you could have the house paid for through rentals and come once a year,
Right.
that would be great in your perspective.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's see what we need to do to make it happen. So do you see how through using her words, I built rapport. I wasn't knee-jerk reacting. When she said I'm not ready, it's finances. You know what we can do? Oh, but there's this fact and this fact and this fact and this, and then we rattle on. And now we're the obnoxious salesperson. Right? You were saying earlier, and I love how you just were like, here's my stuff, help me. I like how you said you tend to just blurt info. This is how you fix it, is you listen very specifically to exactly what they're saying, and then you can solve it with very targeted versus just dumping a lot of info. Does that make sense? Yes.
So then would your next question be logistical question of how much money do you have to put down? Could you ask that specific of a question and it not be emotional?
Yes. Because now I can get into logical stuff. So let's now get into the notebook, and I'm going to come back to both digging for motivation and objections. My goal immediately was just to show you how to ask good questions. Do you guys feel like you got that?
Yeah.
It will take practice. I heard a lot of you say that was a lot harder than I thought, and it will take practice. So when I first learned this, just so you know, here's a tip. I like the show Friends. Anybody else like the show Friends? Okay. And I thought, let me work on getting better at open-ended questions. And if you've taken Bold or anything else, they talk a lot about like neuroscience and neuropathways, and I think this is fascinating. I love neuroscience. And it talks about how you have pathways in your brain. And the more you think something, it's like you're walking on the pathway. And you know how, I'm even sure here, there's hiking pathways that as people walk on them, they stay clear, right? But if people quit walking on them and they start walking a new path becomes clear, and that path becomes overgrown with stuff, right? Well, that's how it is with open questions and closed questions. If you're used to closed questions, that pathway is well walked on right now, and it's your go-to. It's your automatic. And just know that. It's okay. It's actually physiological. That's your neural pathway. You have to start building the open-ended pathway through using them. So what I would recommend is tonight at dinner, at lunch, with your kids, make a focus on asking open-ended questions. The other thing I did, back to Friends, I thought I need to work on this, yet I still want to do stuff I enjoy. So I would watch Friends, and anytime I heard them ask a closed question, I'd write it down. And at the end of the show, I would do, it kind of looks like this. You know, do you like that restaurant? And I would write it down. Do you like that restaurant? And over here, when the show was over, I would rewrite every single question that I heard into open. So what would be a way to ask, do you like that restaurant in an open way?
What do you like about the restaurant?
What do you like about that restaurant? There's a lot of them. What else? Oh, yeah, I heard a couple. There's not one right way, right? So what do you like about that restaurant? What's your favorite restaurant on the island? Or describe for me your favorite food, right? That's way better than, do you like that restaurant? And so anything that you do, the news is great for this because the news has a lot of closed questions because they got to keep it short, and they're trying to get them to say certain things sometimes. And so what I would encourage you is just in your everyday life, start working on open-ended questions. And then as you listen to things, as you watch shows, write down what people are saying that's closed and rewrite it into open. You do that enough and you walk that new neural pathway in your brain, so to speak. I knew that I had finally gotten this down when I asked a friend, what does a good breakfast sound like to you? And then I kind of laughed because I thought, that is a really deep question about breakfast. But I was also encouraged because I thought, yay, I think I finally have gotten the habit down. But in full sincerity, it took me about 6 months of very purposeful practice. And this is how I looked at it. Remember I said I either need to leave the industry or get it together? I told myself I am in language patterns college for the next 6 months. And I just told myself, if I dedicate myself and go all in on this for about 6 months, then I can move into maintenance mode. But I need to think of it like I go to work, and then after work, I study a little bit every night. There were language patterns playing through the car on the way to work when I lived near DC at the time. There were language patterns driving home. And it's obnoxious. I love music. You could ask Lori. I play music pretty much constantly. And I was listening to language patterns in my car for about 6 months, back in 2006. And I believe that that's what has enabled me to do what I do now. It's actually made my whole career. My whole career is based on knowing how to ask good questions. But I used to be absolutely horrible at it. So just know, there's no reason that any of you can't have fantastic success. The difference is how much time are you willing to put into it? Because it doesn't just happen by accident. You have got to put practice. Everybody good? All right, so let's go to now page 3, basic order of a conversation. And from this point forward, we're gonna move pretty quick, and we'll actually be filling out the book. Ignore. We're just gonna be moving on. Okay. And by the way, if you have questions or something to speak up, just holler. You all told me you want me to teach, so I'm just moving. But speak up if you need something, okay? So, anybody in here a football fan? Who's a basketball fan?
I was till last week.
Yeah. I love this part. Everybody always has opinions when they talk about football. I am more of a basketball fan. I love basketball, but football is a really good analogy for this. So you know how we talk about lead generation, lead conversion? Gary says you have to lead generate every day, and then you need to lead convert every day. Well, I want you to imagine, and this isn't in your notes just yet, but imagine that we can have as many footballs on the field as we want, okay? And I think of it this way. Lead generation is like entering people at the 50-yard line. How many times in football does the first play lead to a touchdown?
Rarely.
It's rarely. It does happen. It's rare, right? How many plays does it usually take to get into the end zone?
4 or 5.
4 or 5. Depends who you ask and what team they follow. Like sometimes I hear people say 8, 4 or 5. But the point is, you lead generate and they enter the 50-yard line, and then every day you get people down towards the end zone. I would love to change our perspective. How many of you talk to a lead and you hang up and you don't send it and you're like, ugh, I didn't get it? Or you have some negative self-talk going on? What if you started thinking of it like, I just gained 10 yards with that person? Gain yardage. I would love to be like, start a hashtag in real estate, hashtag gain yardage. That's like my mission. Because it changes your mindset. Can you imagine a football player, if he went from the 50-yard line to the 30-yard line in one play, and he's like, man, I totally stink at this. What would we say? Right? Like, you guys are laughing. And then what if he was like, but I didn't get any points, guys. I didn't get any points, and so it's just lame. I can't believe I just gained 20 yards. It's so lame. Okay, you just gained yardage, dude, right? Like, you don't understand the game if you view that as a negative thing, that you didn't just get a touchdown. You just gained 20 yards. The fans go crazy, right? So what if in real estate we made our goal in every conversation to gain yardage? And that's what I'm going to teach you in just a second. Here's the thing that I want you to learn from, and learn from my mistake. I find, especially if you're a very motivated, like speed-oriented person, a results-oriented person, we get so focused on getting to the end zone that we get bored with the people we're inching along in the yard lines, right? It's almost like appointment, no, okay, moving on, forget you. And I view it almost like I'm taking my money that I paid for these leads and I'm gobbling it up like this and just throwing it over my shoulder. Oh, you're not doing something right now? Trash. You're not doing something right now? Trash. Through coaching, I've seen a lot of teams, and please know I'm not saying quit paying for lead gen or quit lead generating. We always need to be lead generating. But there's several teams that I coach that have thousands of leads. And I thought, if you quit getting any more leads today, and you simply worked what you already have, and you started working them down the end zone, you could probably have in that business for 5 years. And you're wasting your money adding, because you're only looking for the right now people and you're ignoring everyone else. Is this resonating with everyone? Mm-hmm. It's painful, right?
Yeah.
So we need to lead gen and lead convert. Don't do what I did. This is my painful story. I was getting my real estate license and hiring. I was in ISA. Do you guys have ISAs here?
Yes.
Inside sales agents. So my one job was lead gen. And in South Carolina, I did not have to be licensed. So I was about a year in. I had all my points. I needed to set 2 a day, 10 a week. I was hiring ISAs and I was in real estate school. Well, I got this mindset because I was setting 2 appointments just in the morning off like 10 conversations. So I'll be honest with you, I got a little arrogant.
Wow.
And I felt like, I got this. I'm in school, I'm hiring, I only have to talk to like 10 people, I'm setting 2 appointments, I feel really good. Well, you know what was happening is I was working all the people here forward. And 3 months later, it jumped to 30 contacts to set 2 because I quit adding people to the yard line. You have to do it every single day. You have to add, move forward, add, move forward. If you're only adding and looking for the right now people, you're missing all these people. And And if you're only focusing on these people, the day will come that this runs dry and it's almost like you're starting back over. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So make sure you're always doing both. So this brings us to basic order of a conversation. And just ignore slides. Because again, I'm skipping. Again, this is a 2-day class, so we're doing it in like 2 hours. So just, some of you like every blank filled out, and I'm sorry. We just got to go with it. Okay, so here's your basic order for every conversation. Have you ever felt like you have a different script for every lead source? Like I got my expired scripts, and my FSBO scripts, and my sign call scripts, and my, maybe your Uber script. It's different. Well, how many hours does it take to get to mastery? Anyone know?
10,000.
10,000. So I would rather have one basic order for everything I'm doing instead of a different one for every lead source. Wouldn't I get to mastery a whole lot faster? So for that reason, every conversation follows this basic structure. So number one, and this is about halfway down on page 3, basic order of every conversation. Number one, in that line put emotional, the top line, number 1, emotional. And then right underneath of it, it says dig for motivation. Dig for motivation. And in parentheses, it's 3 minutes. That's not on the slide right here. It's in your workbook. So number 1, that first line is emotional. Dig for motivation, 3 minutes. Then where it says ... you're going to say, great. Let's see what we need to do to make that happen. And this should be what's going in your books. Great, let's see what we need to do to make that happen. So a lot of people say, I did all the digging here, and now I feel kind of awkward. How do I get into pre-qualification? Like, how do I transition it? We just had this conversation about what it means and what it'll do for them. How do I get into the other stuff now? That's your transition. Or have you ever had a lead that you're asking pre-qual questions and they're like, why are you asking me all those questions? Right? This fixes it. So when you've done, so I could go back here and say, okay, Randy, and this is another value of writing it down. I can still mirror and match him exactly because it's written down. So, okay, Randy, you wanna get away from the nasty LA beaches. You love the beauty and environment of Maui. You want to swim in the ocean on a daily basis, and it will help you feel and sync, fix everything. I mean, it's like your therapy. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's see what we need to do to make that happen. And now I'm transitioning into all the logical stuff. Got it? So number 2 is logical, which is pre-qualify. Now pre-qualify, I'm not just talking lender pre-qualify. What else included in this is usually where I don't train anything because y'all are usually really good with pre-qualification. That's usually like the go-to for us, right? So what else included in pre-qualification?
Where are you at in the process?
Where are you in the process? What else?
How soon do you want to make this happen?
How soon? Think of it, and you can put in your margin, next to motivation number 1, think of it as the why. Pre-qualification, the logical stuff, is the how or the what. So now that I know what they want, remember we started class with your job to listen to their story and then educate them so they can get what they want? Motivation was me listening to their story. Why do they want to be here? What happens if they don't move to Maui? What's the reason? What will it do for them? Now I'm getting into the logical, strategic stuff, so I can just figure out, okay, what do we need to do? What's the order of stuff? So we have when, we have where are you in the process, what are other logical questions you would ask? Back there earlier you said which beach? That's a great question. I told you no earlier because that was not a motivation question, but that would be an excellent logical question. What else, guys?
What's their budget?
What's your budget?
Do you have something to sell first, or will you be paying with cash?
Right.
Good luck.
Cash. Do you need to sell? Who are all the decision makers? So when I say pre-qualify, it's all the logical stuff. Are we good? Do we need to talk about that any further? Okay. Here's the thing that will change your life. Okay. Step 3 is simply your next step is. Your next step is. This is how you gain yardage with people. Everyone you talk to, unless they hung up on you mid-conversation so you didn't get a chance to do it, everyone you talk to, you will give a next step. How many people?
Everyone.
I like how she's like, everyone. Yes, everyone. Even if they're not interested right now, the next step might be that we'll follow up in 3 months. Everyone gets a next step. Have you ever been somewhere and you're talking to someone that's a professional, maybe like a doctor, chiropractor, or I don't know, somebody like that, and you leave thinking like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do next, I'm still a little confused? We don't want anybody to leave feeling that way when they talk to us, okay? Then the fourth step, and this is the last one, is you're gonna assign a deadline. Assign a deadline. How many of you did your taxes really close to April 15th? How many of you filed an extension? I did, on April 15th. And I even have an accountant. I'm not even the one that does it. And I still had to file an extension. But you know why we do it by the 15th? It's a deadline. So think about the difference. Call me when you're ready. Call me after you talk to the lender. Versus, when will you talk to the lender? So somebody interact with me real quick. Hey, so-and-so, when will you talk to the lender? That's actually your next step, is to talk to the lender to find out what you can afford. So when will you speak with the lender?
Thursday.
Thursday, excellent. So Thursday, I'm in the office until 5. Would you call me before 5 o'clock on Thursday and let me know what the lender said? Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Maybe put a little note on your phone or something. But would you call me by 5 on Thursday?
Why would you leave it up to them to call you? Why wouldn't you say, may I call you at the end of the day and see how it went?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked.
We want them to.
So listen.
The appointment for you even better.
This is why. This is why. So we had a question earlier. You're welcome. We had a question earlier about what are some qualifying indicators. Here's the deal. No matter what I say in the call, it's my job to follow up with him. However, I want to deliver the unexpected, right? Like I want to be the person that wows this client with how well I'm taking care of them. First of all, if someone needs to buy a house, they have a lot of stuff they have to do, right? So if he doesn't call me back by Thursday at 5, that's not necessarily a red flag just yet. But if we do this 3 times and he never calls me back when he says, that's actually to me a warning sign of how serious is this person. Because if he really wants to buy a house in Maui, isn't it true, all of you live here, and a lot of you said you didn't always live here. Didn't you do whatever it took to get here once you were ready? Right? So this is actually a way that I'm figuring out how serious is he. Now here's the deal. If he doesn't call me by Thursday at 5, I'm absolutely calling him. But now when I call him, it's, whoa, Anna called me. I was supposed to call her. And now I'm just doing my job, but there's a wow factor. See the difference? So it's always my responsibility to do the follow-up. If he says he'll call me by 5, I have a task for 5:15. But now I'm doing the unexpected, and my phone is ringing more. Plus, part of where this came from, don't we all have the day where, I don't have this because I don't have kids, but your kids are sick and all of a sudden you're not at work, or you got a flat tire, or yesterday I had a migraine all day. It was awesome. Being in Maui, my first day I had a migraine. It was great. I didn't do much yesterday because I was down for count. So if I had said, I'll call you Thursday by 5 and something like that happens, what's he thinking if I don't call him Thursday by 5? Right? I've now let him down. Why would I want to work with her? I want to buy a house in Maui. I'm going to be dropping $700,000. I want somebody that follows up, and she didn't call me by 5 like she said she would. But if he owns the action item and we don't connect, he's not thinking anything about it because it was his job to call me. Does that make sense?
It does, except it leaves me like, if you now call me at 5:15, it's a gotcha.
It's a gotcha?
Yeah, I feel a little like, oh, I was supposed to call you, I'm so sorry, I forgot. You know?
That's okay. I think that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's your tone. I think how your tone is, and I think that
Yeah,
that
Marion.
But I think, are there inside jokes?
Always.
But I really, by the way, I love traveling because I can always see like, I'm glad we know each other. But really your tonality. So if it's like, hey, I just wanted to check in, see how it went with the lender. I may not even remind him that he said he would call me by 5,
Yeah.
but he probably will remember. But I'm just gonna say, hey, I remember you said you talked to the lender today. How'd that go? What did he say? Did somebody have a question back there?
Well, I was just gonna say, I would call and just say, hey, I'm getting ready to leave my office and I just thought of you, I'm excited. How did it go with the
Yeah.
lender?
That's
I think
absolutely
if
how you
you
do
do
it.
it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not calling
Hey,
and
you didn't
saying
call
you
me.
said you would call me. Yeah, I don't think you would remind him. But the thing is, I'm making a mental note. But here's the thing that I've learned, and you guys have probably learned this too, a lot of you have been in real estate for many years. Don't you kind of know when you call someone and they're like, I'm so sorry, I forgot. Or they're brushing you off. That's actually what I'm looking for. So there's a pattern that we're not going to get to today, but it helps appointments show up 80% of the time, whether they be phone or in person. I imagine you guys probably do a lot of phone or like video appointments here. Is that true?
Yeah.
So the idea is it increases commitment sticking to 80%. Most people are like 40% when they enter the class. Well, part of it is that pattern of how to set an appointment so it shows. But a big part of it is all the stuff you're doing every time you gain yardage with people is I'm not even setting an appointment. If he doesn't call me 4 times that he said he would, we're actually going to go back and I'm going to talk to him about his motivation. And I'm just going to say like, hey, I just want to check in. I know you said you really wanted to move to Maui because whatever reason. And I've noticed we haven't been connecting on the lender thing. What's going on? Is everything okay? Has something changed? And I'm not even going to get to where I'm setting an appointment with him because I'm looking for the patterns. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
This isn't in your book, but would you like me to tell you how to, it's not like, I don't know what the word would be, maybe you can help me think. It's not calling someone out, but it's basically helping them see like, we're not on the same page, something's off. Would you like that pattern?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not in your book, just put it somewhere. You could put it at the end on the back, earning referrals, there's a blank space.
This is my one aha. You said you got one thing, this is it. If they don't connect 4 times, go back to motivation.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, and actually you could even do it sooner than that. You know, use your gut. Like there's that emotional intelligence, and you all know, you can kind of just start to read people like, I think they're brushing me off, or maybe they're, you know, you can just kind of tell. So here's the formula, and it's not, again, just write it somewhere. Number 1, you mentioned to me that, oh, are you looking for a handout?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're going to start with number 1. You told me that, blah, blah, blah. By the way, this works with kids, spouses, anybody. So you told me you wanted blank. So if I went back to Randy, you told me that you wanted to live in Maui because you wanted to feel in sync, you wanted to be connected to the environment. It's like your therapy, right? Okay, number 2, I'm noticing, and then just put like fill in behavior. So Randy, I know that you said you really wanted to move to Maui so you could be near the beaches, swim in the ocean on a daily basis. You want to feel in sync. It's like your therapy. And I'm noticing a couple times we've had a commitment to talk to the lender and I haven't heard from you. And then the third element is talk to me about what's going on. And you can put that in your own words, but make it very open-ended because I don't want to accuse in any type of way. I want to completely come from curiosity. So tell me what's happening. Just talk to me about what's going on. What I find in doing this is that it's usually one of 2 things.